Good morning. We have a very full schedule today, and I'll run down briefly what is to be expected. And know that you don't get the lay-behinds until after you have to sit through this thing. So we're going to torture you. But I hope that hopefully it isn't actually torture. It's actually going to be quite the day. We're going to start off, technical issues and everything notwithstanding, with a tribute video to a dear friend of ours who passed in the last several years. And I don't know if a lot of people are aware it happened, but John Miller, Herb Miller's son, a very prominent British musician and band leader of American origin, of course, Glenn Miller's nephew, passed away. John was a very good friend of ours. He's very helpful to me personally. And there's a great video that's been produced and I want the people who shared it with us to stand at the moment, and they know who they are.
Yeah.
It would be the Eberly Schomburg family. And please take it out. But before we get to the tribute video, after that, something on a lighter level, but a good level for everybody. We're going to invite a gentleman who leads a band up to spend a few minutes with you if you have any questions whatsoever, no holds barred, about how the Glenn Miller Orchestra travels, plays, performs, selects, does whatever they do. Here's your opportunity, because Eric Stabnow is here to visit with everyone. And I really appreciate Eric going out of his way and getting up early after the performance last night, and he's got to work again tonight to join us. It's a really nice thing. Thank you, Eric. Following Eric, I'm going to welcome my colleague who's standing here, and I'm going to ask him to say a few words at this time about why he's here. And his name is Bill Freitag. He's from Central New York. He is another very good friend and colleague, and a great asset to the Glenn Miller Birthplace Society, the Glenn Miller Collections, and frankly, the estate of Glenn Miller. He's done a lot of good work for us. Bill and I have a mutual acquaintance, Chuck Renata, who's our producer friend at Sony Legacy, and Chuck was not able to be with us today, but I wanted to mention his name as well, because you'll be hearing about some things during our presentation and an announcement we're going to be making later in the proceedings that have to do with Sony. Now, he's going to explain why he's here and what the subject matter is, because we're going to reveal some things to you this morning about the Army Air Force's radio production units and orchestras that not a lot of people, if any, are really aware of, and we're about to expose you to it. Bill?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. 46 years I've heard about this and read about it. And so this year I'm making my first trip to the Glenn Miller Festival.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about that. Although I did not realize when I came here that a first timer was obligated to do a presentation. So I'll do the best I can. My piece of the pie concerns itself with the first radio production unit at Santa Ana, California. A good friend of ours, Fred Slotkin, his father was the conductor of that first radio production unit. And Fred's brother, Leonard Slotkin, and you may be familiar with him, he's an American conductor. So it's quite a musical family. And it shows that so many people gave up so much to fight for victory, whether they had a gun or whether they had a trumpet or a violin. So that's where I fit in. And Dennis is the boss driving this machine, so I defer to him.
Leonard and Slotkin and Fred Slotkin, his brother, who we honored this morning, later, were very kind to place all of Felix Slotkin's recorded output, which is considerable, primarily focused on his Air Force years, with the Glenn Miller collections, to be preserved alongside Glenn Miller's Army Air Forces memorabilia and recordings, and that's why we thought it was important to reveal what the first radio unit sounded like on the West Coast, and of course, complementary, the second radio unit in New York, which was led by Captain Miller and later Master Sergeant Harry Bluestone. After we're finished with our presentation, we'll be happy to embellish a little bit, take some questions, but then we have to move on to something else, another item of business, which I think all of you will be very interested in, and you might want to stick around for. But for now, indulge me for a minute while I start the computer, and we're going to play our tribute to John Miller. Prominently featured is Twinwood Aerodrome, former Twinwood Aerodrome, which is now a farm, which was a farm before World War II, was co-opted by the Royal Air Force for a training field. And of course, that's the location where Major Glenn Miller boarded the airplane flight that unfortunately never returned from. I would like to, again, really express my thanks to Jan and himself there. And we normally kid with each other, but this is serious business. It was really, that's a loving tribute. Thank you guys, we really appreciate it. The tall jet in between John and I in the one photo at Twinwood is the late Chris Way, British author and historian, who was so helpful in chronicling the true story of Major Glenn Miller in Europe that we ended up getting. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that there were, Eric notwithstanding as a great band leader, we had several other band leaders in the audience, one of whom already asked a question and made a statement. before I could call attention to him, call attention to myself. But it was our intent to salute our guest band leaders, and I would like to just call attention to all three of them right now. First is Glenn Miller Orchestra, Scandinavia. Jan Solitanis, please stand up. From Sweden. For those of you that may or may not be aware of this, you know, Jan was here in 2007 with his own band, and they made quite an impression. And I think that's one of the things that led to Jan connecting with the Glenn Miller Productions and becoming the official Glenn Miller Orchestra for Scandinavia. And they've continued their good work. As you know, they had to suspend for a little while. Jan's had been in and out of some things where he had some challenges health-wise, but he is back. I can attest to this from this morning. He's raring to go. So if you ever get over to Sweden or Norway or wherever, you can see them. They'll be there, and they sound great. The next one would be sitting next to Jan up there is a familiar face, and we'll only do one more thing, but he got enough publicity yesterday. And that would be Mr. Hilscher. Nick, please just stand up. And last but certainly not least, the irrepressible king of the cha-cha, Vim, stand up, my friend. I can't take him anywhere. He just. All right, now on to business. We're going to, the purpose of our morning here is to look at the Army Air Forces orchestras of the Second World War, 1943 through 45. In particular, the 2nd Radio Production Unit. We know it as the Glenn Miller Army Air Force Band. The Army Air Forces knew it as several different names over time. I won't go into all the unit names. I've had people criticize Glenn Miller Declassified on Amazon reviews saying there's too many abbreviations and things to keep track of in the book. And I'm like, well, that's the Second World War and that's the military. I don't know what I can tell you. That's just what happened. Bill, come back over closer to the microphone. Bill's going to explain to you for just a second before the thing starts. I think it's important to set the tone of what's going on here. The Army Air Forces decided, and you'll see in the slides, to have a really robust media campaign to recruit people into the service, to explain to the American people why they needed an Air Force. Remember, in 1942, not a lot of people knew what was required, technically, manpower-wise, everything to do this. Create big task of defending the country and winning a war. And so they started in Southern California, which made sense because the movie studios were there, and there were a lot of musicians present, and of course a lot of people were going into the draft. A lot of people were worried that a lot of musicians weren't exactly the ideal people to become soldiers carrying guns, but they were really good at playing good music. And so the Army Air Forces had a knack for attracting them. They started in Hollywood. They moved on to, of course, Glenn Miller in New York, which we'll get to. And Bill's going to say one or two things about Hollywood because we have somebody named Felix Slack, and we're going to be introducing you to this morning.
Hello again. So the first radio production unit was commanded by Eddie Dunstetter. I don't know if the name means much to any of you. He was at the time one of the premier concert organists in the world, entertaining around the country. He had been brought to California several years earlier by a gentleman named George Hormel. Does that name mean anything to anyone out here in the Midwest? That's right. He had Eddie Dunstetter create a program to advertise their newest meat product. Any guesses? Spam. So Eddie was already in place. He was a good organizer. He was great with radio. But the real turning point was when Felix came aboard. Felix did the heavy lifting. Felix did the conducting on a regular basis. Eddie was there to look pretty. at big events, and you'll see some examples of that. The idea was to recruit for the Flying Training Command. So where Glenn Miller was with the Training Command, the Technical Training Command, the group on the West Coast had everything to do with folks in the planes. Pilots, gunners, bombardiers, navigators. And so they did an assortment of programs, concerts, recorded programs, live broadcasts, and they continued from mid-1942 through the end of 1945. Felix came out of the movie studios. He was concert master at 20th Century Fox. And understand at that point, in 1942, Felix was 27. He had grown up in St. Louis. No puns here, but he was plucked out of St. Louis by the Curtis Institute of Music. His primary instructor in Curtis was a gentleman named Ephraim Zimbalist. Kind of the name for the family. So he studied there from the ages of 13 to about 16. Went back to St. Louis and then had the good fortune to go to Hollywood. And I mentioned earlier how much people gave up. Felix, at the time he entered the AAF, had a salary of somewhere upwards of $20,000 a year, 1942 money. If you extrapolate that out now, it's close to $400,000. So he was a commander of people, musicians of all ilk in the Hollywood studios. And so he was the likely choice to lead this orchestra that you'll hear. And there's a bit of Hollywood in the way they sound. I'll put that.
So a little bit of background on this. In addition to all of the Glenn Miller Army Air Force Orchestra recordings, many of which exist in the vault in Iron Mountain, Pennsylvania at Sony, some of which we have in Boulder. The family of the Slatkin family was very gracious to give us, for preservation permanently, all of the first radio production unit materials that survive in the Slatkin estate. And of course, we have materials in the vault in Iron Mountain with our Sony partners and in Boulder of Slatkin and the 3rd Army Air Forces radio unit under the direction of Master Sergeant Eric Bluestone. So with that, we'll start the presentation. If there's any glitches in it, we haven't had a chance to run it all through yet in one setting. So if there are any glitches, I'll skip by things if they get stuck. So please pardon any technical issues. I hope there aren't any. But here are the Army Air Forces orchestras.
McKinley, Johnny Desmond, Lieutenant Don Briggs, the whole gang, welcome to another program of I Sustain the Wings.
The Voice of America presents Music with Wings. This is Sergeant Hal Gibley speaking from the United States. Here, styled in the spirit of a fighting America, is melody by the Army Air Force's Orchestra and Chorus under the direction of Sergeant Billy Slatkin, inviting you on a flight of music and song.
And thanking you for everything you do. Here's flag wavers just for you. the Sam's boys at Savannah will be satisfied if we do just one thing.
Well, anything but the boys, man. What is it?
Well, I'll reach the wire I just got. Quote, request playing your arrangement, Keep 'em Flying, for the boys of the 8th Bombardment Squadron, Savannah Air Base. Signed, 8th Bombardment Squadron. Unquote.
Well, don't start unquoting now. What's going to be?
Well, this might be a little rough on the rest of you folks listening, so just fasten your safety belts, fellas. We're going to keep 'em flying.
How do you do, General Arnold? Glad to have you out here with us.
Make your mind, General Cousins.
You are about to witness one of the most thrilling moments in the annals of those who would serve their country in the sky. As Lieutenant General Arnold, Chief of the United States Army Air Forces, awards to these fledglings of yesterday the honorable symbol of American military birdmen, wings, to be worn proudly over the heart. Graduating class, 9 paces forward, march! Sir, the battalion is formed.
We are at war. The brutality, the deceit, the savagery, the ruthlessness of our enemies have been made manifest to us from time to time for several months. Your course is clear. We must find them, fight them, destroy them in their paths of destruction. The wings I'm about to pin on you will designate you from this day henceforth as men of the sky. Behind you are the best traditions of the Army Air Forces. The finest airplanes that this great industrial nation of ours can produce are available to you.
Must be vigilant, American patrol. With our for the Army, ship for the Navy, let this be our goal. Must be diligent, we must be diligent, American patrol. Protect our shoreline to the shoreline of every native soul. Keep this solidarity, or else divided we will fall. It means the popularity of peace and happiness for all. Like this song, we must keep rallying, let there be no dilly-dally. Keep free from dilly-dallying, march to freedom's call. March to freedom's call, march to freedom's call. On land and air, on sea.
Here are produced training, operational, and inspirational films. Films which graphically illustrate what we're fighting for, what we're fighting against, and what we're fighting with. Today, the Army Air Forces faces a tremendous task, the task of training men by the millions to man and maintain the air armadas it's hurling in ever-increasing numbers against the enemy, to instruct the maximum number of men in the minimum amount of time, and to inspire as well as to instruct them. The Army Air Forces has adopted many novel educational methods, has activated many specialized organizations such as this. Mainly from the motion picture industry come the men of the 1st Motion Picture Unit. They are men of all crafts, writers, directors, cutters, electricians, cameramen, sound recorders. Men who've been carefully chosen from among the most proficient film technicians available. Men who've had long years of training and experience in the art and science of the motion picture. And while these men are making movies for the Army is making soldiers out of them. They're specialists, yes, but first and foremost, they're soldiers. So they've got to do their job the Army way. They've got to be strictly GI. From directive to finished film, the course of an Air Force motion picture project is charted and checked by the production office. Here the shooting script is broken down, converted into terms of money and minutes, men and materials. It is the production office which coordinates and expedites the operations of the many different departments that make up the 1st Motion Picture Unit. Of all the weapons of World War II, none has proved more effective than words. And words are particularly potent when used by the Army motion picture writer. For his medium is a young and vital and compelling force, one whose possibilities for visual education are endless, still virtually unexplored. These soldier writers of the 1st Motion Picture Unit work in close contact with technical collaborating agencies, secure authentic, on-the-scene information at air bases and training centers throughout the country. The
Hollywood is on the air, so listen people everywhere. Manhattan Lights, Spragg Lights, Boston has its beat. But on the coast we proudly boast not the Hollywood champagne. Indiana Jones against the wolves, Army life routine. From every camp 4 miles they tramp through the Hollywood canteen.
Some famous band begins to jam, and everybody starts to whirl. A lucky bug to cut a rug with his favorite pin-up girl.
Coffee pot is always hot, and I let donuts keep. Ready, bed, and air cadet, sailor or marine. The welcome mat says check your hat at the Hollywood canteen. Ready, bed, and air cadet, the sailor or marine. Welcome mat says check your hat at the Hollywood canteen.
Uncle Sam presents.
Hello, Mom.
Hello, Mom. This is Bill. Hello, Mom. It's Pete. Hiya, Mom. This is your boy Jack.
Hello, Mom. It's Gardner.
Hiya, Mom. This is Frank.
But I just had to say hello,
cheering voices you hear belong to a few of the thousands of cadets who are being trained as our future bombardiers, pilots, and navigators, and to our own airwags as well, who are helping speed us to victory. Perhaps your son or daughter is among them, and for each mother's son or daughter in our Army Air Forces, they affectionately say, "Hello, Mom."
What does the flyer think of when he's up there in the sky? Ask any Army pilot and he'll answer with a sigh. While I'm there in the air with my head in the clouds, I think of someone I love, and I know down below she is thinking of me while I am up there above. When the night is clear and the bombardier drops a bomb that's white for snow, miles away, how I yearn to return with my head in the clouds to the
The youth of America is off to war, but this time to new and livelier rhythms, a new style of bandsman like Captain Glenn Miller. This is the wartime tempo of a fighting but light-hearted nation.
And howdy to all you sons and daughters of Uncle Sam scattered all over the world. We have some music coming up we think you'll like, and Sergeant Jerry Gray is responsible for the opener upper, Enlisted Man's Mess.
That dream is here beside me, long the skies were overcast, but now the clouds have passed. You are here at last. Chills run up and down my spine. Aladdin's lamp is mine. The dream I dreamed was not denied me. Just one look and then I knew that all I longed for long ago was you.
Women of America, march with Uncle Sam's army. Join the whack.
Join the whack, take a crack at the axis. Uncle Sam needs your help right away. On the ground, in the air, happy everywhere. Join the Women's Army Corps today.
Airwax, as weather observers, are using weather as a weapon of war and making the skyways safe ways for our planes and the men who fly them.
There's a job meant for you, and the job you can do. Join the Women's Army Corps today.
Folks, this is Captain Glenn Miller again, with the thought for your memory book. Never has aviation played such a part in any war. The bombing of Sicily, of Italy, the constant pounding of Berlin, those attacks spelled quicker victory. But those attacks cost money, and big money. Just one single raid of 500 flying fortresses over the Rhineland cost almost $750,000 for gasoline and bombs alone. Now multiply that by hundreds of raids, and you can see why it's up to all of us to buy more war bonds. Not just one extra bond now and then when you feel you can spare the money, but more bonds regularly to help pay the high cost of this war for freedom and to win this war and win it faster.
G.I. Jive, man alive. It starts with the bugle blowing reveille over your bed when you arrive. Jack, that's the G.I. Jive. Roodly-toot, jump in your suit, make a salute. Roodly-toot, jump in your suit, make a salute. Happy wash and dress, more or less. You go get your breakfast in a beautiful little cafe they call the Mess. Jack, when you come from there, out of your seat, into the street, and make with the feet. Out of your seat, into the street, make with the feet. If you're a PBT, your duty is to salute the L-I-E-U-T. But if you brush the L-I-E-U-T, why, the MP makes you KP on the QT. This is the G.I. Jive, man alive. They give you a private tank that features a little device called fluid drive. Jack, do you revive? Chunk all your junk back in the trunk. Fall on your bunk. Jump, buddy, jump back in the trunk, fall in your bunk.
That's right. Everyone else can ride a jeep or fly up in the sky. But there's nothing to ride the infantry, you just a tired guy. The hard way, right till you get there, the hard way. On through the bumper sticks. What do you do when the ground crew you fix and fix and fix? What do you do when the air crew and the flak begins to scream? How can you duck when the bombardiers are steady on the beam? How can you take a front row or jump behind the tree? When you'll have to march away just like the infantry. Up, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4,
We're going to run short on time, so I'm going to apologize, and we're going to put online, we'll put online the rest of the Air Force presentation, because we have to, Bill and I have to get out of here real quick, because I have to start something that runs for about 7 minutes. That's our next feature, which I really think everybody's going to want to hear and see. And there's some other people in the room that I need to call forward right now that are part of this. But let me technically put this down right now, and let's go to the next thing. Again, I apologize for cutting Air Force short. I'm going to, let me play a video with some very important audio that you might want to hear. We'll have some comments after this. I want the shock value to come to, before we start making comments and babbling on with people in the room that know about this already. So stand by, we're about to make an important announcement from the Glenn Miller Birthplace Society and its affiliated people like me, Colorado, and Sony. Here we go. The Glenn Miller Birthplace Society, the estate of Glenn Miller, the Glenn Miller collections of the American Music Research Center at the University of Colorado, and Sony Music take great pride and pleasure in announcing the historic Glenn Miller Limited Edition Volume 1.
10 p.m. BULOVA Boulevard Watch Time. WABC, New York.
Chesterfield brings you Glenn Miller's Moonlight Serenade.
Good evening, everyone. This is Glenn Miller speaking to you from Chesterfield's Radio Playhouse here in Times Square. Marion Hutton, Ray Everly, and all the boys, and we're inviting you to light up at Chesterfield while we furnish the music.
That's right, everybody. Enjoy our serenade for the Chesterfield while Glenn and the whole swell bunch get things moving. And first off tonight is a tune bearing the title, Johnson Rag. says to Marion, I ain't hep to that step, baby, but I'll dig it. You said I'd be hearing from some new members of the gang, and that's
Well, I'm not kidding. Your old Chesterfield
You mean
band.
Chuck, Hal, Ralph, and Bill?
Yes, sir, the 4 modern heirs, and from here on in, they're part of our house.
Oh, that's so swell, and a hearty welcome to our 4 new Miller men, and I think right now I'm through talking because I'd like to listen.
Okay, and here they are with Ray Everly and a beautiful tune called These Things You Left Me.
Sensational arrangement which he introduced for the first time 2 weeks ago tonight. I think you know it now. The Anvil Chorus. Cigarette that satisfies.
That's pretty solid talk, Mr. Douglas.
Well, thank you very much, man.
Now, the band plays a tune built along the same solid line.
Could I inquire the title?
Solid as a stone wall, Jackson.
Satisfying.
Down in Kentucky. They're holding their graduation festival Saturday, so here's our best wishes for a swell weekend, and Ray and the Modern Airs sing our serenade, Lullaby of the Lake. And now from our new picture, Orchestra Wives, soon to be released, I Got a Gal in Calvary. Back next Tuesday, same time, broadcasting from the Kansas City Auditorium, Kansas City, Missouri, where we look forward to seeing many of our Chesterfield friends. Of course, we'll have something ready for the boys at the Charlotte Army Air Base down in North Carolina, and we'd like to have you join us then. And
Ride up and listen to a Chesterfield moonlight serenade. We'll play your houses again, we'll tell you how Chesterfield cigarettes are made. So that cool bird tasting and the definitely married. And best of all, they really satisfy. So make that next pack Chesterfield.
Everybody that smokes them likes them.
In the meantime, remember to make your next pack Chesterfield. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
After about 20 years of being hounded for more Chesterfields, I hope people are happy. I do want to call on somebody here. You saw who the production team is and all the people that have been in on this plot. And it's a very high pressure situation. We have considerable. Look, we're trying to do this legitimately, and legitimately means we're doing it through Sony Music, our good partner who's given us a lot of breaks on this thing, but we have to raise production fees to get the thing off the ground and done. And so we have a lot of people who have been helping us on that, and you know, we're going to be charging for it. It's not free, but in any event, that's all a subject to be discussed in the next few days and weeks. We expect to be able to have this thing available, at least in your hands, for the Christmas season. It'll be out October 1st or November 1st, one or the other. We're ready to roll. The things at Sony and the things ready to be mastered. And Andreas Meyer in New York has 5 Grammys. He's going to do a tremendous job, but he wouldn't be able to do squat if he hadn't been handed the material in pristine condition from sources. I don't know if this does justice to the sound quality of these materials. You have not heard Glenn Miller's civilian band in this audio quality in your life. This is unbelievable. And the man responsible for it is sitting right in front of me. And I want him to take a bow and take a stand, and you might want to say something about how you accomplish this. His name is Carl Pearson. Yeah.
First, I'd like to thank Dennis for listening to me early on when I said, how about a fundraiser for the Glenn Miller Birthplace Society? He's done a lot of hard work and you know, the heavy lifting in getting this in everybody's hands. I will say, you will hear some material. This material you heard in the speaker sounds good, but when you hear it on your home system, it's going to knock your socks off. Wow. And it's been some amazing stuff to hear. It's going to sound like, some of these tracks are going to sound like you're in the room with the band, and it's pretty amazing. We've also got some things that have been kind of high on people's request list, like these things you left me. There are some things that have been issued partially in the past, like just a little bit south of North Carolina. Here we have the missing beginning and the missing ending, which nobody really knew about. So, and then, like Dennis also mentioned, some really great stuff, some long form versions of tunes like Anvil Chorus and Tiger Rag. And I think basically the 1940s, this period, it's going to kind of give everybody a reassessment of what this band was really like. There's a lot more of a jazz quotient that you'll hear on some of these things. The band, excuse me, I get kind of emotional when I hear the 42 band. But the 1942 band, I think, will impress a lot of people because there's a lot of great music that you'll hear, you know, on this particular thing.
Order forms and everything, Sherry and I will put together the whole package. This is only going to be available through the Glenn Miller Birthplace Society, and it's a fundraiser for the Glenn Miller Birthplace Society. So if anybody wants to help sponsor it, that's great. And if you want to purchase the CDs, they will be available for pre-order this coming week. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.